Hello students, how are you? This is Professor Lorenzo, and this will be one of our video lessons done with YouTube. This particular lesson should take no longer than 15 minutes, but this is part one of two. Today, we're going to be working on an analytical essay. We will go through the lesson. We will also do a model of an outline a little bit later. And afterwards, you will be required to complete an assignment that has to do with this essay. Completion of that assignment will basically prove that you were in class today. It's a matter of taking attendance for online classes. You will have until 11:45 this evening to complete that assignment, but I'd advise you not to wait till the last minute, because if you have computer problems, or maybe you don't understand something and you need more time to think about it, or you need to contact me to ask some questions, it gets kind of late at night, you're not going to be able to do that, which means that your assignment will not be done, which means that you will not be marked present for class, and you will also get a 0. So I will give no other than a with a proper doctor's excuse, I will give no makeup on this assignment. So let's get started. As I said at first, this is going to be the first part of two. Normally we'll only have one video per online lesson, but today we'll have two because we're going to, besides analytical essays, we're going to talk about creating outlines. So what is an analytical essay? So an analytical essay, usually it's writing that has more narrowed focus than a summary. So an analytical essay is going to analyze a piece of literature. It's going to, in our cases, you're going to be analyzing a short story, all right? But analytical essay does not tell me what the story is all about. We don't want a book report here. Oh, this happened, that happened, this happened. What you're going to be doing is taking certain parts of that that literature, and you're going to be giving your opinion on it. Analytical essays usually concentrate on how the book or poem was written. For example, how certain themes present themselves in a story, or how the use of metaphor brings a certain meaning to a poem. If you remember correctly, last week we talked about elements of fiction. We talked about figurative language like metaphors and similes. We talked about literary archetypes, and we also talked about story structure and the hero's journey. Well, that's what you're going to be analyzing in the story you'll be reading. You're going to be talking about 1, 2, maybe 3 aspects of all that, and you're going to be giving your opinion on it and show us why your opinion is correct. So in short, this type of essay requires you to look at the smaller parts of the work to help shed light on a larger picture. And by smaller parts, we're talking about the elements of fiction and all the things I just mentioned. An example that this writer is given is like, his theme is going to be, the theme will be, I'm going to analyze the theme of sacrifice in the Harry Potter series. So this author has read Harry Potter and decided that he or she is going to discuss theme. And if you remember, theme was one of the elements of fiction that we talked about last week. And just so to kind of bring it back to your memory again, the elements of fiction are plot, character, conflict, theme, setting, point of view, tone, and mood. You can, so if you're going to write an analytical essay, because we want this to be about 5 paragraphs, so you don't want to bite off a lot. You may want to talk about either 3 aspects of the plot, or 3 aspects of the character, or 3 aspects of the conflict, or you may take a paragraph to talk about plot, 1 to talk about character, and 1 to talk about conflict, or whichever one of these you want to talk about. It's up to you. You also, if you want to, you could choose to talk about the story structure. You may want to write an analytical essay saying, well, this is how the story was introduced. This is the initial conflict that started the struggle in the story. This is the rising action. The only problem with writing about story structure is you probably want to talk about all of it. And that's more like giving, a summary of the story or a book report. We really don't want that, but if you can do it effectively in 5 paragraphs, that'll be fine. But I think if you take a look at this, because there's more than 5 or more than 3 elements of story structure, you've got exposition 1, conflict 2, rising action 3, climax action 4, falling action 5, resolution 6. That means you're probably going to have to write an 8-paragraph story if you're going to talk about story structure. and that would mean giving one paragraph to each one of these items, also a paragraph for your introduction and a paragraph for your conclusion. So you may not want to do that right now anyway, but you can do it if you like. It's up to you. We also may want to talk about figurative language. And if you remember, we talked a lot about metaphors and simile. We also talked about symbolism and personification. We didn't talk about all the figurative language that's available, like alliteration or onomatopoeia. So I'm not expecting you to write about that, but if you want to, if you want to learn for yourself what onomatopoeia is, of course that has more to do with poetry than literature. But if you want to find out what hyperbole is or idioms or whatever, and then decide to write a 5-paragraph essay on that, you can do that also if you like. Okay, it's up to you. But again, what you're going to be writing, if you do figurative language, you may want to talk about 3 elements of 3 metaphors in this story that you found interesting. But then again, you're probably going to write a whole paragraph on that metaphor, so make sure there's enough to write about. Or you can write about the hero's journey. If you remember, we talked about this. The hero's journey is just, hey, the hero starts out with everything normal, something happens, and he's got a call to adventure, and then he goes through this circle until he or she is back to being normal again. But if you want to write about the hero's journey, that's fine. You just may want to take 3 aspects of that and write 1 paragraph about each. That's okay if you want to do that. So. And then also, if you want to talk about archetypes, you may want to talk about, if you find 3 separate archetypes in the story, you may want to write about them. Or if you find 1 archetype that you can write 3 paragraphs on, hey, you can do that also. So, an analytical essay can be defined as a writer's reaction or response to a body of work through a critical lens. That is, one must set out to explain the significance of the text by persuading the reader of a certain point regarding the text. This point of claim the writer is trying to make is not a fact, but rather, and this is key. And let me move this so you guys can see the whole thing. This is key. It's not necessarily a fact. It is your opinion, okay? And so the writer must support his or her argument by explaining the text in great depth. And to do this effectively, one must use evidence from the text to explore all sides of his or her argument regarding the text and ultimately support his or her claim. Let's watch this little video, and it'll help sum up what we've been talking about.
We speak student.
Analysis essay a la Schmo. Did you hate the Hunger Games movie but love the book? Do the K Jewelers commercials make you want to just puke? Well, to answer these questions, you must first analyze a text or film or TV show or ad, and then form an evaluation and support it. You can't just say, 2.5 Men sucks, then cross your arms, pout, and refuse to say another word about it. The easy part of this kind of essay is that it asks for your opinion.
Do you love me?
And we know you've got plenty of those. Here's your chance to tear the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner a new one. In order to score points in this paper, you don't have to be a brown-noser who claims to love everything your teacher made you read or watch. In fact, essays are often more interesting when the writer does take issue with the work in question.
Give War and Peace a chance.
However, the tricky part of this kind of essay is that you'll have to explain the why. Why did it suck? Why was it awesome? If you think an easy solution would be to claim that something is just average, it's an acceptable opinion, but you'd still have to explain why it's just meh. And to support your opinion, you'll have to analyze the material.
Seems like cashmere to me.
So no shortcuts for you unless you're enlisting in the Army. The main focus as you analyze, whatever it is you're analyzing, is to first get a really, really firm grasp on the material. It might mean staring at a painting for hours, or watching a movie a couple times, or eating a diverse range of items from the menu of the restaurant you are reviewing. Know your material well, and it will be easier to take it apart and support your evaluation. When we say take it apart, we mean exactly what we say. Dissect it. Slice it down the middle, peel it open, and watch its little heart beating. What makes it tick? What makes it stop ticking? Ask yourself questions about it. What are its various parts? How do they all come together? Examine it closely to discern its meaning or significance and to support your evaluation. If it's great, What works? Why is it great? What made it so? If it's a fail, what exactly is ineffective about it? Do you just not like the way it's looking at you? Hey, wait a minute. If you're arguing that your opinion on something is valid, are you not writing an argument essay? Bravo for being sharper than an elven sword. There are no watertight divisions between essays, and elements of argumentation creep into most of them. If it helps, you can think of analysis essays being like a type of argument essay that focuses on other things. Things that you did not think of or create. Things that you have to give your opinion on, or evaluate, or analyze. Alright, you're ready, Daniel-san. Find your critical thinking cap and make sure it still fits. If it doesn't, you may have to settle for your critical thinking yarmulke. It's not as fashionable, but it should get the job done.
What's it? Seems like cashmere to me.
Subscribe to check out more
All right. So remember, what you're going to make this a lot easier, because even that little video I'm sure could be complicated. What you want to do when you're doing an analytical essay is you want to find 3 parts of the story to write about. Whether it be the elements of fiction, as we talked about earlier, whether it be the story structure, as we talked about earlier, whether it be figurative language, as we talked about earlier, or whether it be the hero's journey or an archetype. Okay? So, instead of giving you 101 essays to choose from, I'm going to give you one to work with. In Compass, and this is just for practice, okay? This isn't going to be your homework. This is just for practice. I'm at Compass, I'm sorry. In Canvas right now, there's a story called Miracles by Lucy Korn. I want you to read that story. Take however much time it takes to read it. As you're reading that story, I want you to try to find 3 things to write about. Either 3 things about one piece of one metaphor, or maybe 3 separate metaphors, or maybe 3 things you want to say about the plot, or maybe 3 things you want to say about the conflict. Just find 3 things in that story that you want to write about, okay? So take your time, read it, take notes, make sure you circle the things you want to talk about, and then we're going to work on putting an outline for the story together here shortly. So, what we want to do is now talk a little bit about outlines. So why don't we'll do a little bit on this video, and then by watching this, we'll watch this video right here, and then we'll go to the second half of this lesson after this video is done. So, pay attention.
How to write an essay outline. Knowing how to write an essay outline is an invaluable skill. It will get you through school and help you survive written tests. Good essays can be written without outlines, especially by writers who are experienced and used to writing off the cuff. However, using outlines makes the process easier, smoother, and better organized. Essay outlines provide the skeleton, the bare bones on which you can build your writing. They provide structure so that the ideas and thoughts flow logically and build towards a strong conclusion. Without an outline, an essay runs the risk of going off in different directions, the ideas disorganized, and the thoughts all jumbled. This will detract from the effectiveness and power of your argument. Take the time to write an outline, and you can ensure that you end up with a well-written, polished, convincing essay.